What's up guys, I'm Lauren and welcome to my channel. So this channel is going to be for more creepier videos, and obviously this is my first video, but if you guys like these videos, definitely give it a thumbs up. I'm dedicating this channel to spookier and creepier videos. So in this video, I am going to be telling you guys the case of the Devil Made Me Do It case. So without further ado, let's get into the video. This case comes directly from the case files of demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren. This is the story of Aaron Cheyenne Johnson, the first known person in America to attempt to use demonic possession as a plea in a murder trial. On February 16, 1981, 19-year-old Johnson stabbed his landlord several times with a 5-inch pocket knife. It was the first murder in the books of the 193-year history of Brookfield, Connecticut. But according to Johnson, the murder was committed by a demonic force that had overcome him, even though he's the one that held the knife. Months earlier, before this crime, 11-year-old David Glatzel allegedly had a strange encounter, and his older sister Debbie was Johnson's fiance. David, Debbie, and Johnson were cleaning up an old rental property when David claims he saw an old man appear, and he just said that this old man was pushing him and threatening him. In the beginning, they just shrugged it off as if it was a kid who was trying to get out of his chores, but David didn't want to believe that. Not only did David continue seeing things, but these sightings became more frequent and intense. He would wake up sobbing in the middle of the night, describing it as a man with big black eyes, thin face, animal features, jagged teeth, pointed ears, horns, and hooves. The Glatzels hired a priest from St. Joseph's Catholic Church to bless their home, but David's encounters remained unchanged. He would suddenly jerk awake to hiss, growl, speak in weird, odd voices, and even recite passages from the Bible. Eventually, instead of the creature only appearing at night, it began appearing in the day as well. This time, it was described as an old man with a white beard dressed in flannel and jeans. And this is when the family hired Ed and Lorraine Warren. Lorraine reported seeing a black, misty figure next to David when they were over, and that kind of just proved to them that they were definitely dealing with something more negative. In October of 1890, the Warrens contacted the Brookfield police and warned them that this situation was getting very dangerous. Lorraine said that David had made numerous references to murders, stabbings, stuff like that. David always complained about being hit and choked with invisible hands, and then witnesses started seeing random red marks just showing up all over his body. As the situation got worse, the Warrens said that they were present at 3 lesser exorcisms. This was in an attempt to get rid of the dark spirit lingering around. Now, during these lesser exorcisms, David supposedly started levitating, ceased breathing, and gave the name of 43 demons that were possessing him. Now, this is when Johnson became very desperate, and he didn't want David to go through this anymore, so he basically told the demon to possess him instead and leave David alone. Now, after these failed exorcisms, Johnson got into a car accident. He was convinced a demon took over his wheel and drove him into a tree off on the side of the road. Luckily, he wasn't hurt, but he was determined to put an end to this. According to an episode of the Discovery Channel, a series, A Haunting, there was a well on the same rental property where all the trouble had started. The Warrens told Johnson to don't investigate it, just leave it alone. But after the accident, Johnson did it anyways, and he says he made eye contact with the demon This was the last time he was completely lucid until after the murder. Later on, Debbie and Johnson moved out of the Glatzel home, and Debbie was hired by Alan Bono, or Bono, however you pronounce it, and she became a pet groomer. The couple rented an apartment from Alan as well, and then Debbie started to fear that they brought David's demons with them. It was reported that Johnson would growl and say that he saw the beast, but later on he never remembered it. On February 16th, 1981, Johnson called sick into work and he joined Debbie at the pet motel. Alan took them out to a bar for lunch and he drank heavily, very heavily. And later that day, Johnson had stabbed Alan repeatedly while growling like an animal. When the trial came around, Johnson's attorney, Martin Manella, entered a plea of not guilty by reason of demonic possession. This was the first time in the US, and Martin had cited 2 cases in England where similar pleas had been used, but neither case went to trial. Lorraine agreed that Johnson had been possessed during the murder, but Robert Callahan, who was the judge for the case, rejected the plea. He argued that it would be impossible to prove and the testimony would be irrelevant and unscientific. Johnson's legal team entered a plea of self-defense, but the jury was not persuaded by this. On November 24th, 1981, Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter. He was sentenced 10 to 20 years in prison, but he only served 5. And once he got out, he married Debbie Glatzel. So, did Johnson really believe he was being possessed by demons? Or was it just an excuse to distance himself from his actions and not get in trouble with the court? Did he hope that the judge believed him because demons are real and just take his word for it? Well, we'll most likely never know what happened in the small town of Brookfield, Connecticut in 1981. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. I don't really care. And subscribe if you're new. And comment down below videos you would like to see next. And until next time, bye guys. Stay curious.